Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. But I'm posting it on a Tuesday, so do with that what you will. Omega Protocol is done, so I'm ready to get back into my regular posting schedule. And even though I could wait another 6 days to post this, I figure I might as well. I technically could have had this ready for Monday. I'm recording it on a Monday for real this time. But Sunday after the Omega Protocol is done, I just took the evening to relax. And I took a little bit of today to do the same, but I want to make sure I don't take too long getting back into the rhythm of things, because I know there's a lot of things y'all are looking forward to. And excuse me, because I'm probably going to trip over my words as I'm still recovering from the nearly 2 weeks of lots and lots and lots of stream hours over on the Twitch end. And I'm not just exhausted from the fight itself, as I'm sure many of you can imagine who have been keeping up with the recent news with everything with Final Fantasy XIV. That being said, what I want to do in this video is I want to go back 2 weeks and grab the questions out of the Q&A from then. And then, we'll be back on a regular schedule going from the following Mondays. As for Ultimate content, I am planning on quite a few more YouTube videos regarding it. And then, of course, we have our retrospectives. I think people want a tank and maybe even a ranged physical versus that's updated with the machinist stuff, with the paladin stuff. So plenty of videos coming, no shortage of that. So please look forward to it. Just expect this week to be a little bit slower because I'm, like I said, still getting back into the rhythm of things. So thank you for understanding, for being patient these last couple of weeks on the YouTube side. And also thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon, because they've been contentless as well. To be fair, all of my content's posted for free here on YouTube. There's nothing locked behind the Patreon. It's just there because people enjoy it. Same as things like Super Thanks or any of our sponsored links. They're for things that people might enjoy, the ways people might want to show support, and ways they could even get something back, whether it be Advanced GG Steel Series or my currently ongoing HelloFresh deal. Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff with them, and a lot of people really enjoyed it during our Ultimate proc. So I'll have links to all that in the description, and thanks again to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting, because they don't have to, they just choose to. Anyway, now that I've tripped over about 17 words and I don't feel like re-recording this opener, let's get into the actual Q&A. All right, before we answer any of the questions, I think I deserve a sip of coffee after how that intro went. So, I mean, look at how much in shambles I am. I have like a permanent headset indent in my head that you'll see anytime I do that. Oh, what a time. Anyway, let's get to the first question. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. Hope all is well for you and your loved ones, and the top prog is treating you kindly. It was treating me in some kind of way. Thank you for answering my question last week. It really helped to hear a different perspective. I don't remember what it was. 2 weeks ago feels like a lifetime ago. 2 questions for you this week, if you don't mind. Sure. Of all the classic Final Fantasy tracks that have been remixed for 14, which one you say is your favorite? I think the Extreme from E12S is the best redone track. I think that a close second, if not a potential successor to that statement, is actually the Hydane. I wasn't familiar with their work prior to the latest trial coming out, but his remix of the Four Fiends theme, the Final Fantasy IV track, that's up there. That's definitely one of my favorites that they've added recently. But I think the Extreme still takes the cake personally. As for question number 2, we're able to take Zero into Lapis Manalis with the duty support system. However, it seems as though she's also been added to the trust system, seeing as trust's main function is as an avatar leveling system. I think this could point to Zero becoming a permanent member. At the very least, she'll be around long enough for it to make sense to have her inside of the Endwalker dungeons, even as a trust. So I think that might be why. I don't think that sees as a guarantee that they'll be there through the next expansion or any future expansion. But for now, at least for Endwalker, it makes sense to have them. So that's we'll just take that as it happens, I suppose. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Howdy, Haps. Howdy. Hope Prague went well and hoping it goes well for me too. I hope it was going well for you. I hope it is still going well, and I hope that you are having a good time. So given your music game pass, what are your favorite songs from your favorite games? DDR, DJ Max? Man, I can't remember a lot of... I know IIDX for Beatmania is May. May is a classic. I mean, that's one of the harder tracks. That's one of the more interesting tracks. DDR, the Paranoia... Oh, no. Oh, man, what was it called? I remember it's like Heavenly Something and a Heavenly Desire or something. Angelic Mix. I mean, that's the classic from DDR8 is Angelic Mix. But no, the Paranoia series was always one that really stuck out. But I got to admit, I like the music from In the Groove a lot better. I know Kyle Ward and his like 20 million aliases did most of that music, and it's impressive. His happy hardcore stuff in particular, like Delirium, was really good. DJ Max, I have a really hard time remembering the music. I'd have to listen to it again because I haven't played DJ Max in a very long time. But chart-wise, man, that's another thing. So DDR's early charts I thought were really good, but when they started having competition with stuff like Stepmania being more popular and In the Groove, which Konami eventually sued, they started trying to make their charts more difficult in not interesting ways. A lot of crossovers, a lot of turning of the body, and all it did was it made bracket humping a lot more prevalent. I mean, it was really the only way to comfortably get through most of those tracks. And I know I'm speaking in a lot of rhythm game acumen, DDR acumen in particular, but essentially it's where you balance your foot between two of the arrows. So instead of lifting your leg, you can just lean your foot forward or back to do most of the steps or make very, very slight movements. It's why flat-footed shoes were very popular. It's why anything that weighed less than a pound was pretty much mandatory for your feet. You needed a really lightweight shoe in order to not like really tire your ankles out from the constant lifting, even the tiny lifts that you do. And having a pad that was mostly uniform in terms of I guess its height. Like you didn't have like massive dips or raises in the steps or in the metal bits between the steps. Although some people preferred that because it would allow them to identify where their foot was. So it's, yeah, there's a lot of different elements. And I have gone through the Theatrhythm demo, in case you're wondering from this question. I've almost got all the songs done from the demo on all the difficulties. I actually only have the easy difficulties left, and you know how excited I am to do those. And it's great. I've been having a lot of fun, especially as someone who's just been out of the rhythm game for a long time. Last one I played was Necrodancer. Was it called that? Necrodancer? Crypt of the Necrodancer, right? Yeah, or Necro of the Crypt. It's been a while. But yeah, that was the last one that I really played. So it's been a good time getting back into it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, hope you're doing well and are still sane after a week of top prog. Yeah, can't wait to make the video on that. TLDR, I didn't think the fight was all that stressful. It was just the amount of time it took for everyone to be on the same page for progression that was more frustrating. And that's just like, yeah, I guess I'll get into it in the video, but that's like something I always struggle with because I'm usually very quick on the uptake, but you have to play to your members and all their individual needs. My question regards Harvestella. Cool. I was on the fence grabbing it, but did on your recommendation ended up really enjoying it. I 100% of the game and found myself curious. I know the director wishes to make it more of a franchise, so what would be any elements or ideas you'd like to be expanded on in a hypothetical Harvestella 2? A couple of easy ones. House customization, completely non-existent in the original game, and I think people, even though it is designed to be an RPG, more than a farming sim, I think that's a really important element that is missing from the base game. I think the marriage system being locked behind post-game, while it does make sense, is also something that should be revisited and expanded upon in a better way. Other than that, there's probably like other little things like, you know, less stiff combat or more interesting decisions to make in regards to like how you earn profits or what your profits are actually used towards, better ways of tracking in-game achievements, because like the trophies you get, they don't even have descriptions. And I don't mean on the Steam version, I mean like in your house as you do things, you get like these like statues and stuff, and you can kind of divine what each of them are for, but they're descriptionless, and it's kind of like, why did you do that? So yeah, there's a lot of little things, and he seems to reflect on a lot of those things because I know what the interview you're talking about is, and wants to improve those things and sees that improvement can be made. And given that it actually, you know, post people's like 1 hour, like I need to refund this if I don't like it Steam reviews, all of the longer reviews are critical, but usually on the positive side, like, oh, they could improve this, that, and that. And I really like that the director took a lot of that and he takes it to heart and really wants to do something more with it, because I think it was one of Square Enix's strongest games last year. So I really hope to see a Harvestella 2, and I hope to see a lot of these improvements in there. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Salutations, Haps. Hello. With the release of Endwalker being delayed, has there been any mention of the planned release dates going forward for the next expansion? Assuming nothing happens to cause further delays, do you know if they are wanting to continue to release in the winter? So the winter release is certainly not possible. The main reason being is they've also extended the amount of time between patches since Endwalker has released. It used to be 17 weeks. Now it's either 19 or 20 weeks per patch. 19 weeks when it's out of the holiday season and 20 weeks when it's inside of the middle of the summer or winter, which is why the most recent patch 6.3, was a 20-week cycle for the holiday season. Very likely we'll see a 20-week cycle for the summer as well, given that we've been told that the developers are being given an extra week of vacation in the summer and an extra week of vacation in the winter. Just so, you know, they can do right by their employees. So what's most likely to happen is we're most likely to get patch 6.4 in the late May, early June. Now, I did actually do all the math for this, but I don't have it on hand right now. I actually just did it today, too. But essentially, all you're doing is you're taking major patch releases and adding either 19 or 20 weeks to them, and that gives you a major patch cycle release. So you can go back just 4 weeks from today, and then, you know, or you could even just from today add 15 more weeks, and you have an idea of when the next patch is most likely to release. Then as you go through the summer months, maybe add on that extra week for the 20-week cycle, and you get something in the realm of like October. So what you're most likely looking towards is somewhere between the first and third week of December being patch 6.55. And if they follow a pattern from there, it's a minimum, and I say a minimum, 6 months until the expansion after that. So you're looking at the earliest a June 2024 release. So it could be later, it could be earlier, but I wouldn't expect it. So that's my expectation, is at the earliest June of 2024, and I expect it would be about that amount of time, a 2.5-year cycle, so alternating between summer and winter releases, unless they make some sort of major change to the development process again. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi. Long-time fan since Stormblood, trying out a question. Sure. But first, hope your prog goes or is going well by the time you read it. It's done by the time I read this, thankfully. With the recent 6.3 update giving us features that have been used in plugins. Oh boy, plugins. That's an exciting topic for me right now. I'm a not plugin user, but unfortunately was recently adjacent to some pretty big drama in that category. So any plugins you... So I don't know what most plugins do. I only know what people tell me. So, okay, personally, I would love the plugin that shows me when I'm able to slide cast. Okay, I have seen black mages using that before without my cast being interrupted, but I know the topic of plugins are extremely touchy on the Discord. Oh yeah, you asked this 2 weeks ago. I'm sure you're going to hear this question back right now and be like, yeah, I'm surprised you picked that one. Yeah, but there's no point in not taking this type of question. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know what most of them do. So, like, there's a few basic ones that I know about, and I've learned of one new one very recently. But, I mean, that's, see, the thing is, though, slide casting is not something I think they would ever try to teach you in-game, if that makes sense. So, like, this seems like one they wouldn't do. I've seen mad people talk about chat bubbles. So I guess that's one. But yeah, I don't know about them is the problem. I play on the vanilla client. I always have. The only third-party thing I've ever had installed is ACT, and I haven't even had that since like 5.55 or something like that. So unfortunately I don't have the know-how to know anything about this to really give you an answer. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello World. Hello World wasn't even that bad in Omega Protocol. So it's not even that bad. I mean, Mr. Happy, hi. Hope Tophead went well and wish you plenty of rest. I'm going to need it. As a fan of shiny hunting, have any food memories to share from your hunting over the... Oh, fond memory. Sorry, I haven't eaten a whole lot in the last 2 weeks, and I just had a pizza before this, so it's like... food's still kind of fresh on the mind for me. Any shinies you're particularly proud of or fond of? I mean, I had the 7,704 attempts for Regice. I had like 2,700 attempts for Palkia when the Diamond and Pearl remake came out. I had 113 attempts for Lugia in Sword and Shield from the raid dens from the Crown Tundra. I don't know, I've had a lot, you know, I mean, I have over like 100 and something shinies. I counted not too long ago. I forgot what the total number ended up being, but I did write it down somewhere. But I have a lot of shinies. So anyone that I'm particularly fond of. I mean, the Regice one where I'm yelling, "It's real!" is probably a pretty good one. But there is actually, okay, so there is one story. There's two stories that are kind of identical, but I'll just go with the one. So when the Sword and Shield first DLC came out, the Isle of Armor, 4 encounters in, I was just catching every Pokemon for the first time to fill out the decks like I normally do. 4th Pokemon in was Klefki, and I caught it and didn't even look, didn't really pay any attention. Someone in my chat went, "Whoa, that was a shiny." And I was like, "It was?" And I didn't even notice the sparkle because I was just laughing. I was like, "What is this key?" Like I was like doing this when it did the sparkle animation, so I wasn't looking. And I didn't know the Pokemon because I didn't play that generation when it first came out. So, yeah, that was just weird. Four Pokemon into the Isle of Armor, and I got a shiny Klefki. So I guess that's a story I like. But the torturous ones are usually the more memorable ones. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hi. Just saw your DSR thoughts video and wanted to know your opinion on what would be the sweet spot for fight times as well. Do you think Ultimate should have more transferable mechanics in between phases and not at all like DSR? Yeah, it's a big problem I have with DSR, is the lack of transferable. I mean, it's such a long-winded way of saying the mechanics don't reoccur in later phases, but it's just the best way I could think to describe it. I found DSR to be the hardest, as with the most people, just like with your analysis video. A lot of the points are agreeable. I just wanted to hear more of your thoughts in regards to my question. Sorry for the text wall. If you think that's the text wall, man, you haven't seen some of the questions that I so interestingly, I have to revisit this topic with the Omega Protocol, because the Omega Protocol is, with everything included, a longer fight than DSR. As long as you don't include the door boss, if you just include from Thornton to the end, it's longer with, also a super long transition phase. But something about the length doesn't translate to long in the Omega Protocol, whereas DSR is an example of a long encounter that feels long. The Omega Protocol ended up being a long encounter that does not feel long. So there's core design elements that prove an 18 to 19 minute fight can be a not too long experience if done correctly. So I actually do need to completely revisit this in another video, but I do still think that 17 minutes to 18 at max should be the sweet spot, whereas the 19 or close to 19 of UCOB DSR and now over 19 for the Omega Protocol, even with things like downtimes and transitions and cutscenes and stuff, is, I think, still mildly excessive. I think 17 is really the sweet spot, and you can get an extra minute out of the way that you use downtime, personally. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Happy. Hi. Congrats on the clear. Oh, wow. This actually came from, like, today. Oh, actually, there are a few, like, questions from... Okay, some of you were smart enough to come back and ask this. Wow, listen, y'all get... High five. Out down. All right. With how tight the DPS checks are on top, how reasonable is it to clear without 2 melee? So there has been a double caster clear. Double ranged fizz, I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemies. But my static is both red mage and summoner, and then melee fizz range. So we're somewhat worried about DPS checks. So I would particularly be worried about double caster that doesn't include a well-played black mage. Just because while red mage and summoner aren't bad, you lose a lot to go double caster without somebody being stronger. Now, I will say this. I think this is a short-term problem, a short-term relative in the lifespan of the game. So a couple things to keep in mind. When patch 6.4 releases, we'll have new food, and more importantly, we'll have new pots. Now, I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but that alone makes up for a huge difference in how close some of these DPS checks are, because of the 2-minute meta. You're essentially hyper juicing those 2 minutes several times throughout the fight, which really goes a long way to de-stress some of the DPS requirements. Now in 6.5, we'll actually be able to get dungeon gear that's item level 635, which means everyone will have slightly more health, slightly more defense, slightly more damage, and it'll just work. So for now, double caster without a black mage, probably doable in a really high skill environment. I'm not going to say it's absolutely doable, because I could probably be wrong about that. But without a black mage, I'd be scared, personally. So I know that's maybe not the most hopeful answer you were hoping to get, but that's my honest answer, is without a black mage, I would be concerned if I were you. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, another one from a day ago. Perfect. Quick question. What's your favorite job, and what is one change in it or addition you would like to see added to the job next expansion? So Monk is easily my favorite. It does in every iteration, even its worst iterations. I've always enjoyed Monk. Sometimes I just don't want to put up with playing it, like in certain iterations of it. But as for something I would add to it, I don't know. Monk is one of those jobs that actually handles the 2-minute meta very well because of the way it goes in and out and how not strict. It technically does have a strict GCD rotation, but your 2-minute window doesn't force you to do the exact same thing every time. A skilled monk makes that window work within the constraints of the fight itself, which is why I love Monk. I think honestly with Monk, they really need something like a Notman is one of the dumbest like capstone skills. It's just, why would they talk about like how capstone skills need to feel exciting? And I understand it's not a capstone skill anymore, but at some point it was. And it's so wildly unimpressive. They've shown that they can improve improv for Dancer. I think it was a genuine improvement what they did over the jankiness that it had when Dancer came out. And I think they need to do something similar with a Notman. Something, perhaps they, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see them get rid of Mantra and work part of Mantra's effect into a Notman while you're channeling it. So that way it's only around, but that would be a huge nerf to it. So I don't think they should even do that. But I think activating a Notman needs to do something, even if you're just snapshotting it onto your party for some sort of supportive effect, like you do with improv or, you know, what you do with wings and a bunch of other skills on other jobs. It just can't be a I'm holding my gauge or I'm holding my twin snakes buff. It's just, it's so silly that that's what it does. So I don't know exactly what, but that's thing I really want to see them change on Monk as a Notman. Hashtag Omega Day with Ultimate Happy. Oh, 2 weeks ago. Hey, yo, writing this before the Ultimate, but I'm sure the first week of Prog went well, and I was there to cheer you guys on. Oh, thanks. Thanks to your static, I discovered Gerald, and I have to say he's very funny. I've been enjoying the shenanigans, especially seeing he plays on JP too. And here's the question. Did you know JP people tend to queue into Extreme and sometimes Savage via Duty Finder? Yeah, they use the Raid Finder. Yeah, I'm perfectly aware of that, because in JP, people are willing to know a strat, stick to a strat, learn a strat, and that's actually how you do reclears. You go in via the Raid Finder, because if you're queuing into that over there, it implies that you already know what you're doing and you're just looking to get it done again. Whereas the Party Finder is used for learning over on the JP servers. Over here, nobody touches the Raid Finder because they can't trust themselves or anyone else around them. So it's, yeah, it's not good. It's not good over here. But I'm glad that JP gets to use it and that they are way more competent than we are here in the West. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Lolly ho. Lolly ho. Hope you and yours are doing well and all the best in your top prog. Quite enjoyed the 6.3 State of the Realm with Slime Pyro. Good. That was a really fun one. Long time lurker, but asking some questions for the first time. 1. Which side stories would you like to have more exposure in the MSQs? I think the Void story that we have now makes me wish that Unakalhai was more involved with the MSQ. So that's probably, I think that's really the big one is really wanting Unakalhai to have a more main scenario role. But it's, you know, I'm not super hopeful now. I'm even less hopeful than ever before. 2, do you have an instrument you wish would be added to Bard's repertoire? No, not really. I just want them to make songs not so uptime reliant. I want there to be a way to rotate between them freely outside of combat. Maybe not freely, but outside of having a target, the ability to swap to a song without a target so you can keep a rhythm going constantly on the job. So that's like one thing. 3, loving the Moogle shiny weapons. Would it be possible if they add Newliths that shoot Koopa? I don't think you'll ever see major animational changes to stuff like that, only because it's a lot of extra work for them. And I don't think they want to do that for any individual weapon, because then people start to expect they'll do it for every individual weapon. So I just don't see that happening. P.S. Low-key wishing that the 13 collab one-handed wands would be somewhat updated to be usable in recent two hands. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say the same thing. So I'm not too surprised at that request, because I've seen it before. So thank you. Hashtag Didlun Geidemeister Happus. I'm so sorry to everyone out there who had to listen to that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hi, good evening. Pretty close to evening for me right now. Hope Top Prog went well or is going well. Went well is the right word, and oh boy. Crafting gathering related question. I'm probably useless. With the new Disciple of Hand or Land gear added this patch, I thought now would be a good time to get into higher end crafting. For everything 90 but only basic 90 gear, what would be the steps I would take to get higher quality gear, preferably without the market board? Make it yourself. There's no other answer. And unfortunately for you, I don't do any crafting or gathering, really. I level them, and then I just stop using them. That's pretty much all that ever happens to me. So I am not very useful. I think the answer is it's either scripts or crafting it yourself. And so have fun. I don't know what else to say. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Lolly, hope you enjoyed Top Ho. I thought it was really good. I'd like to apologize in advance if you've expressed in the past you don't like hypothetical questions. Well, it's not so much I don't like hypotheticals. It's more like a... how would I put it? It's weighing my opinion on something the game wouldn't do as if I had any sort of impact or weight on said decision. So it's like, you know, what would you think if they added a hammer wielding job? You know, or what would, or like, you know, there's it's like, what would you think if they added a hammer wielding job that had this mechanic and that mechanic and this mechanic and that mechanic? And it's like, that's like a hypothetical that I can't do anything with, because like, yeah, sure, why not? It's not like I'm the one who makes the jobs. It's just an idea is an idea, and I think we all have them. It's just sometimes hard for me to I don't want to act like an authority on them, I suppose, is the best way to put it. But let's see, because who knows where this goes. My speculative question: do you think if we took the skill level of the current player base and put them through Gordius, along with the lack of quality of life at the time, no cooldown resets between wipes, punishing heavens or rotations, accuracy wouldn't matter. We would just, you know, materia for that or gear for that. Would it still have destroyed the rating scene like back in the day? Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Because here's the thing: you're looking at the current player base's skill level. The current player base's skill level is not on average higher than it was back then. You're still looking at the number of exceptional players that are above average, which, while that number has increased, so you would have a higher number of successful clears, in regards to the grand scheme of the entire population from a percentage level, it is still a small percentage of the average player, and a lot of those average players do raid. They're just trying to play the game. They're just trying to have fun. They're not trying to be cutting edge. And with Gordius, there was pretty much no way to be anything short of cutting edge. That's just how it was for the third and fourth fights. So for someone who just wants to play the game and isn't trying to be hyper competitive, isn't trying to like get crazy high DPS numbers or be ultra optimal, it'd be a huge, you know, shot in the foot. And there's nothing against players that play like that, you know, or that's like your goal, or that's just in line with your interests. But the question is if Gordius would injure that player's, I guess, willingness to play, and if it would be so damaging to the scene. And the answer is still yes. It's still the way it was designed, who it was designed for, how it was designed. They didn't even beat it without God mode before releasing it, which is why they now make sure they can beat fights internally before they release them to the public, even if they end up over buffing slightly after they've done their fine tuning to make up for the difference in player skill between the developers and the actual players themselves. So yes, it is just that it was designed with that level of cutting edge in mind, and I don't think that's in the interest of most raiders today. To this day, I should say. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hello, Mr. Happy. I hope the Omega progression went well for you. And you wrote progression, but I read regression in my head before I said it out. Oh, that hurts my brain. My question is in regards to the new Gold Saucer content that was announced during Endwalker. You mean the one we never heard about again, and that we never really got any information of in the first place because they said they were doing something, but then never showed us anything, and all we've gotten is Sylph Step. Yeah, from what I remember, everything they talked about during the event is the only thing we haven't heard about since. Yeah, that's it. They said it was something on the level of Mahjong, and we haven't heard about it since. I don't have any updated thoughts. I don't want Blitzball in Final Fantasy XIV. It's the only thing I thought of. I thought maybe the snowboarding minigame from 7, but I don't know what happened to it. I don't know. Nobody knows. Who knows when we'll know. All right. I've only been recording for about 30 minutes, but I feel exhausted. So I am going to try to lightning round the remaining ones. I apologize. It's been a crazy last 13 days. Heck, in the first 5 days of February, I logged 70 hours live on Twitch. More than my usual. That's about double the amount I would normally have in a 5-day period. So I'm going to get through this quick because I do have other things and I want to reserve some of this energy for those other things that I need to do today. So sorry for everyone from this point on, but I'm going to lightning around these questions back to normal following Monday. So then we had one, need some parenting advice. Dude, I got cats. I don't know how to take care of a human. I want to introduce my kids to Final Fantasy. Where should I start? I think starting as early as possible is a good idea. The only problem is that some kids are going to be ultra picky nowadays. Final Fantasy 4 is good. Final Fantasy 1 is fine. Final Fantasy 6 is good. Even 5 is okay, but might be a little overcomplicated depending on the actual age. But yeah, no, those are all good choices. I wouldn't do the PS1 era personally. And while you could go with something like 10 or 7 remake, I think that maybe starts a little high because that might kill interest in doing the earlier ones. So 4, 6, or 1 would be where I would land on that one. How strong would you say the Warrior of Light is? I would say they're as strong as they need to be. And I think that's kind of what the point of Dynamis is that it's emotionally driven power. So we are always as strong as we need to be in a given scenario. No weaker, no stronger, and that's why we can always come out on top. That's why we're the protagonist. That's why we have the plot armor. So that's it. That's all I think it is. I think Dynamis is meant to be the I can be whatever you need me to be kind of power, I suppose. When it comes to ultimates, do you pick weapons you cleared with or ones that look best? Usually ones that look best. Because a lot of the times I play a job that just doesn't have a good looking weapon. Dancer, I'm not a huge fan of most of the weapons. My favorite Dancer weapon is actually the Dark Princess yokai weapon, which I'm surprised because I don't like most of the yokai weapons, but the Dancer one I really like. The Gunbreaker one even as well. So yeah, and then for the second question, if a dancer gives another dance partner if a dancer gives another dancer dance partner, does the buff count twice? Yes. So when you give dance partner to someone, one of you is the left partner and one of you is the right partner. So if 2 dancers give each other a buff, both of them have left partner and both of them have right partner, so they can both share each other's buffs. So yes, it does actually work. Next one. Please feel free to vet this question before reading it. Well, luckily for you, if I decide right now I don't want to actually do it, then it's not on screen anyway. It's from 12 days ago. I like how you're already you're complimenting me for completing the new ultimate. In regards to, let's see. Yeah, okay, so the question is just like, if I were to do like a D&D style game and then I wanted to monetize on YouTube, could I? Yes, absolutely. It takes major creative license, and it's just using the IP as a base. I mean, that's the same reason why we're able to create things like machinimas or guides. It's the same principle. You know, you're using the world as a backdrop for your content, but you're putting a lot of creative license into it. So it's absolutely fair use, and not the kind of fair use where you're like, could just barely get away with it. So yeah, no, that's fine. You can definitely do like D&D style stuff and still monetize it on YouTube or anything like that. That's no problem at all. I mean, it's even written into their terms of service. So you're absolutely fine on that front. What's your favorite struggle meal or something to get you going on a tight week? I don't have one, in all honesty. Ever since so a bit of background history for me, I have some education in health in food science, on top of my IT stuff. And so I'm very practical about food. I believe that there's food that you should eat because it's good for you and food that you should eat because it's good for the mind. Now, a struggle meal would be something that's good for the mind, and that's, in my opinion, normally something indulgent. Something like, you know, maybe a savory like a pizza or a steak, or something sweet like an ice cream cake or a cookie, you know. But I don't have like one that I absolutely go to. I just kind of have moods. And so sometimes I'm in one mood, sometimes I'm in another mood. But one thing I'll tell you that I have started doing, because this seems to be going from grocery prices going crazy, is I've become my parents and I look for deals. I look for coupons. I buy things that are on sale, and I don't just buy things because I want them. You know, when I was young, I didn't have a lot. You know, my family had money when I was like 4 or 5 years old. But then after that, you know, my dad was taking odd jobs. My mother was, you know, paying off debts with the money that she had. And you know, I grew up with very, very little until I started getting older and my family kind of leveled out, you know, everything that had been happening. Then, of course, I started earning my own money and I started just making the decisions that way. And I've always made good decisions, but when it comes to food, it's one of the only things that I have hobby-wise. Now, not just cooking, but I mean, even just enjoying. I don't travel a lot. I don't do a lot of individual events. I don't like go to concerts or anything. So food is like my universal, it's the universal language. You know, everyone, even if you like or don't like certain foods, it's kind of something everyone can relate to or understand on a very personal level. So when it comes to purchasing, I had no qualms buying very expensive food because I didn't buy very expensive anything else. So, but right now I'm not doing that. I'm actually, penny pinching because tax season is coming up. And after years of helping my mother with all of her stuff, I'm finally, this is my chance to play catch up on everything that I fell behind on while I was helping her. Which again, thank you everyone for last May, because that's pretty much the only way that this is actually possible. So getting on to the topic, I've just started looking for more important deals. I've started looking for how to put together meals that are more than one meal. So I bought things like egg noodles. And egg noodles were classic when I was a kid. You cook up some noodles, you put some butter and salt and pepper in a pan, toss it all up, and bam, you got butter noodles for dinner. But what I can do now is, I might have some like chili flakes and like oil in there instead. And now I've got like a spicy sesame egg noodle, so it's a little bit more interesting. And then, you know what? Let me toss in, there was a great shredded meat that was on sale for like, $5 at the supermarket. Now let me toss that in there. Oh, you know what? I can grab a head of broccoli, not that expensive, and throw that in there. So it's about taking a lot of smaller ingredients, putting them into a dish so that volume-wise, you have a lot more without spending more. Instead of being like, oh, I'm going to get a steak and get potatoes and make that as a dinner. Whereas the steak's going to be $20 to $25, maybe even more now. And the potatoes, while not that expensive, are just being made for this one meal. And you're probably going to need like 2 or 3 potatoes, even that on yourself. So I've just spent $20, $25 on a single meal when I could combine this $2 bag of egg noodles, $5 thing of shredded meat, like $1.50 for a broccoli crown, and maybe like one other thing in there. And now I've spent $10 and I've made 2 or 3 meals or something like that. So those are the kind of things I've been focusing on. And you know what though? The noodles are the big one, man. The egg noodles, the buttered noodles. Swear by that. I swore by it as a kid. Swear by it as an adult. So that was a bit of a long-winded one, but as you can tell, I get very into that topic of for the video. Why is it not possible to slide cast mount? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. If I did, I would answer it, but I don't. I had somebody else asking if they should play White Mage or Astro. Astro's so busy. I always say start with White Mage and move outward. But that's tough. But as for an Astro question, is it worth to save 2 or 3 cards to use in big pulls or bosses? Is it better to use them as soon as you get them? Yeah, you always want several cards ready to play for burst windows. But you have to make sure you don't overcap on them as well. You don't want to sit there if you're at full cards. And unfortunately, because I haven't played Astro much, I don't remember if they're... I don't remember how many cards you play between burst windows because I don't remember the cooldowns and everything. But I want to say that you play like... At most, you can only play 1 or 2 card, I imagine, before you have to start saving for burst windows. So, yeah, you just want to make sure you spend just enough to overcap, but not so much that you don't have them ready for a 2-minute window. So that's pretty on point. Also, is 6 and 3% like very little? Not when you're giving it to everyone over and over again across the fight. That adds up tremendously. They had another question. They said it's a long time since they've had a question on YouTube. When farming bicolored gemstones, I get a lot of forlorn maidens and for few forlorns. I have all 90s, so it has nothing to do with me. So you're thinking if they could buff the bicolored gemstone rewards as well for anyone who's max level. I don't think they want people using the forlorns for that reason. I think they are strictly there for people who are leveling as a bonus, because you don't have to kill them in order to complete the fate, but someone who needs the experience points might want you to, and you can help them out with that. So I don't think giving the forlorns the additional purpose of rewarding more bicolored gemstones is in the interest of the developers just to give them a max level purpose. But I also understand that if somebody who is max level feels motivated to kill them, then they're less likely to ignore it when there's people who need leveling. From that angle, yeah, absolutely. They can make it give like a 10% increase to bicolored gemstones, but something small. It needs to be a small number, but it also needs to feel worth. So maybe something more like 20 or 25%. So that, yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea, but I don't think increasing the volume of bicolored gemstones is in their interest for a couple of reasons, just because of the way that they're balanced, the way that they're done, especially with some of the newer items they've added. But it doesn't make it not a good idea. I just don't think it's in line with their interests. That's all. How would you compare Delubrum Savage to other Savage? There's no other Savage like Delubrum. There's no other 48-man Savage. The closest thing is BA, but BA is so much easier than Delubrum. I would say Delubrum Savage is like several extreme level encounters back to back with a severe death penalty. So I wouldn't compare it to other Savages, though. That's just how I would kind of generally describe it to somebody. I had somebody here. Oh my goodness, there's so much text. Hope Top was at least fun, if frustrating. New high-end Raider. I use quotes because it was Ruby EX. Save for Limit Cut in terms of mechanics was rather easy, coming from someone who for 400 hours thought Fight or Flight buffed Caster pre 6.3. Ooh, that's rough. But enough about my hilarious failings. I was curious as for the general tips for DPS. I have the new Paladin rotation down decently. The optimal rotation is a bit cumbersome, which you don't even really need to do on Paladin. I know that DPS isn't the be-all, end-all for fights. A clear is a clear, and I heavily prioritize mechanics over DPS, but someone who tries to do better. Listen, anyone who tries to do better is doing better than most people, because most people just don't try to do better. I mean, Paladin is literally, don't do the optimized rotation. Don't do it. It's literally like single-digit damage better than the just the winging it one. Paladin should just be going through their combos, and every time Fight or Flight comes up, you do a 5 GCD burst window and then 3 GCDs of whatever you have available. You should always have a Divine Might available, or be right about to have a Divine Might available for the burst window, and then whatever other 2 GCDs you fall on is all that it should be. And that allows you to not focus so heavily on DPS, to just do the same thing over and over again without trying to like specifically time burst windows or try to get 8 perfectly optimal GCDs and like dropping atonements. You don't need to do it. It's not worth it on Paladin. So that would be my advice specifically for Paladin, personally. Let's see. Then we had another one. First question, do you think Xenos will make some sort of return? Nah, he's gone. That's an easy one. What are the chances we have to go to the first to re-enter the void, given the way the story has gone so far? I don't think so, but I do want to revisit what is happening over on the first, or that is tangentially related to the void story, because it feels so weird for it not to be important. It's just that what you have to do to make it relevant to your character is a lot. It's a lot of leveling, it's a lot of quests, and I don't think they'll ever make it mandatory. But I do think that they should revisit it again at some point. Let's see. I see just a bunch of stuff, and I'm trying to find some questions, because it's the thing, and that's a lot of text. I've done a lot of singing in the last week with Omega, so there's a lot of comments, though. A lot of comments. Let's see. And yeah, okay. All right. There we go. There's a lot of funny things here. Where's Alpha? Please put Black Mage back on the throne. What does that mean? I don't understand what that means. Wow, there's a lot of comments, just straight up comments down here. Some about 2-minute windows, some about somebody being upset that I don't like Pump It Up. Yeah, I don't like Pump It Up at all. A lot of comments about classic Final Fantasy stuff, given we were talking about that a couple weeks ago with some of the origins of names like Tiamat and Bahamut and where the inspirations actually come from. But yeah, no, it looks like that's pretty much all the questions, at least the ones that are clearly marked as a hashtag. There was one that was like a lot of text, and I couldn't find a question at a quick glance, so I just kind of had to move past it, so apologies to that person. But yeah, that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. So be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share. Ask your questions for Monday. I know it's on Tuesday at the moment, but it will be back on Mondays next week. So be sure to ask questions in the comment section of the video below. Anyway, I still have more videos to record, more coffee to drink, and more living to do that isn't in the Omega protocol. So thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.